Running Sentences presents The Drawn Out Fight, Part 5, Fighting the Wind. Vass finds himself continuing his fight against the duo that make up the Cyclone, that are intent on destroying the town behind him. This is a work of fiction. It is inspired by the manga Tree Gut. There are several similarities between the two, but I have made a lot of differences as well. If you wish to classify this as fan fiction, that might be what it's best named as. Story written and narrated by Michael Honnery. Copyright 2022, Michael Honnery. All rights reserved. Puck threw a few more dart blades in Vass's direction and then scrambled away herself. They weren't terribly well thrown, but two found their mark, one in his arm and the other in his foot, though the one in his foot didn't get past his shoe. Excellent, now we can destroy this hellscape of a town. It's a bit of a strange place, but it is no hellscape. Besides, Doc Hold was in town. Look at the lost loser throwing names out there as if it means anything to us. Go sit on a blade or something. The brother and sister were now side by side, watching as their device began to move on its own towards the town. The speed at which it was moving began to pick up, so it was going faster and faster, whirling about in furious action. Vass felt frozen in place, wanting to see what it was going to do before he tried to attack it again, lest of all it turned on him. Right now it looked bad, but it also didn't seem like it was doing very much at the moment. A bunch of stuff was swinging up on top of the pole that stood about human height, and would certainly damage things at said height. What else could it do, though? With its pace quickening again, the pole nearly shot off towards the dry lake bed and the town beyond. Vass threw himself in front of it, but it dodged to his right, as if it had a mind of its own. Damn it! Having tumbled to the ground in his attempt, Vass did his best to pivot to a crouched position, pistol up to target the pole. He felt several whacks hitting his back from what he suspected were Puck's blades. The sights on his pistol were all he was concentrating on now, as he squeezed off as many rounds as he possibly could towards this device pole thing. A second after that, though, he felt himself being propelled forward again, flying face forward, this time towards much of the dry lake. Keep him down. I'll watch over our great friend, the Leveler. I'm wounded. And I can keep up with our device. You can't. Throw him about some when he gets up again. With that, she raced off after it as Vass got up out of the wet, dry, caked mud that made up the bed of the lake. Some of it stuck to his face, and he did his best to wipe it away as he got up. His foot did sink in a little bit in this stuff as he glanced over his shoulder towards this Liam. The man looked about ready to disappear again. I wouldn't do that if I were you. There was no response from this member of Cyclone, so Vass decided to begin running away, slightly towards the pole down. He wasn't aiming for it exactly, but in the general area he figured would work. Stop, damn you! He chose not to stop, since that would be a bad idea. Slowing down, though, he could do that, mostly from the slick, muddy ground that was supposed to make up the dried lake bed. It was not easy going, and the lady in the pole weren't far off from him, and also seemed to be struggling to get across a bit. I will stop if you stop this catastrophic event. There is no stopping the world's end. It must come. We were never meant to be here. It is only thanks to Rapier that we are here in the first place. If he didn't destroy things, then we would never be here. Lies from the non-believer. The shout from Puck, who they were catching up to, since the pole was now stuck in some mud, was having some difficulty. She was trying to get it free, but also kept looking back at them as they were approaching. With them getting closer, it seemed like she was having a hard time deciding on what to concentrate on. I said stop, you fiend, or I will destroy your entire soul. You ghouls will never be able to rest without one of those. Rapier insisted on that fact. Should I ever come across someone like you? The ground had done a great job on all three of them, slowing them from moving much. Vass felt like he was getting no closer, and now felt like he had to look over his shoulder in case Liam came flying at him. The man might disappear at any second and send him flying again, which, on the balance of things, was not as bad as some things, as long as it was towards Puck and the pole. Why do I have to do everything myself? You don't. You just like to complain because it makes you feel better. The lady had turned and begun flinging her blades indiscriminately wherever she wanted. Mostly, Vass noted, at himself, which he tried to dodge about, but in this mud it was not a good, fun thing to do. It wasn't going so well as he found himself falling forward, face first, into said mud. "Do you need some help?" The new voice that Vass was pretty sure he heard was to his right, and he looked that way as he got up again, first wiping his face with the mud. He wasn't sure if the other two were also looking and seeing this man, but there was a man standing on the mud, not sinking into it, not far off. "Who are you?" "A savior, potentially, for those willing to pay me good money. I come at a steep cost, but never leave a job undone. It's bad manners to do so, don't you think?" Vass glanced to his side to see if the two murderers, this Cyclone duo, were seeing what he was seeing. They were certainly staring at the direction of where this man was that he saw. It didn't mean they saw him, though. "The name is Fred Carton, and in case you are curious, that is what my name is. I know which party here is seeking help. Wants any help?" "You look familiar." A shout of Liam's snapped Vass's attention as he felt like something was off about this man. He went fishing in his pocket for the photo he had put back in there. "Yes, he does, brother. He smells like a killer of killers." "Yes, my reputation of having a sickly, sweet stench of death precedes me wherever I go. I'm surprised none of you noticed it as I approached." "We are busy with work, but since you have that smell, I expect you've been contacted by the golem to work for certain people." Fred cocked his head to the side and smiled at Puck as he began walking closer to them. He had been a good 50 feet or so away, and easily crossed the mud with no trouble whatsoever. Vass had the photo out now, and was examining it, trying to spot this man in the photo. If he was in there, it was hard to see him, and Vass drew the photo as close as he could to see if he could, in fact, find him. "You said we could hire you, Mr. Fred Carton?" "For a price, yes. Might go against my orders, though, but we'll see. It'd be fun to find out who will bid for my services." The duo that made up the Cyclones were now completely ignoring their device and were staring at this man, Fred, open-jawed. "You didn't answer my question, but from your answer to my brother, I get a sense for who you are." Liam looked over to his sister, confused as he tried to think hard about what she was saying. The pain in his leg was causing some troubles in his thinking, and was making him puzzle even harder than he wanted to. Vass gave up on the picture, unable to discover if this Fred was among those in it. "Is this about my brother?" "Shut up about being Rapier's brother. It's obvious that you aren't related to him at all. You act nothing like him and look completely different from him. No one believes your lies." "I might." "That is not helpful, Liam. Why would you even say that? What do we gain from acknowledging a fool who's wasting our time?" Liam pointed towards the man called Fred, who was taking off his long jacket and dropped it easily into the mud. It revealed that he had many holstered pistols strapped to it. Fred stretched his arm out in front of him, interlocking his fingers so he could crack them and stretch them out. "So, who is willing to pay my price?" "What's the cost?" "A soul for a soul." This caused the brother and sister to pause and look confused. Vass himself didn't understand the cost that was being implied. He decided he didn't much care and put his attention on that blasted pole. Destroy that, and it solves all the issues of these of the Cyclone twin pair, whatever. Unless they had another one. He really hoped they didn't have another one. What do you mean? It is simple. You give me your soul, and I take that soul, and in return destroy the target by taking theirs. Anyone interested in my offer? I can't. I don't have one of those anymore. Me neither. We traded them already for the ability to destroy this world. The looks all fell towards Vass, who had been trying to sneak away. He wasn't having much success since his boots squeaked in the mud, and the mud kept trying to stop him from moving very much. Every step caused him to flinch, and when it fell quiet, he turned to see the others before him. And what about you, sir? Soul? Don't believe much in those things, so can't give it away, maybe? Also, I don't believe in dealing with things in such a manner. Fred merely smiled and leaned back to stretch himself out in a new direction. It's a good thing that I came up with an alternative payment method then, all because I heard rumors about this and that. What is it then? Oh, it is a fun little thing. I agree to help you out, and then stick around until you've completed your little job or whatever you're doing on your end. And when it does come to an end, I collect what will be mine in the first place. And what, sir, would be yours? I suspect you mean souls, or is it the body and the mind? Neither of which is appealing, to say the least. So what is it? The aura around Fred darkened a bit, as his hand rested on 2 of his holstered pistols. You only get to find that out when we come to the end of our little journey. So, who is taking up my offer? The pair looked at one another and shook their heads no as they turned to Vass. The Cyclones wanted to finish their job and both began moving towards him, Puck with her blades and Liam limping along. Tick-tock, Mr. Vass. What is your answer? I never said my name. I believe the 2 idiots said it, and it doesn't take a smart person to put 2 and 2 together. After all, they mentioned a rapier, and I do believe I've looked up this man, and he had a brother named Vass, if I'm not mistaken. Well, we all see who you are anyway, and you haven't hidden it away now, have you? A blade slid past Vass's face, nicking at the tip of his nose before passing by. He took a few steps back, knowing that this was a warning to stop any attempt at destroying the pole. His pathway to it was cut off by Puck, but were blades faster than bullets. He took a chance drawing his pistol and letting off 2 quick shots at the device. To his surprise, Puck threw blades into the air. He didn't get to see the result as he felt the hand of Liam on his back and felt himself go flying forward, only to meet the ground a few seconds later. Oh dear, you really do look like you could use a hand. Shall I offer it, good sir? Vass pulled himself back out of the mud and found Fred squatting down beside him. He moved very quickly, which was disturbing to Vass. No. You sure? You might wind up dead soon, all because you're all alone. He wiped away the mud from his face and got up using his hands to clear himself and then pick up his pistol again. It needed to be shaken from mud, but the pistol looked okay to Vass when he ran the action. You're under the wrong impression, sir. I'm not willing to pay your price, and I do not think having you around would be a good idea either. How unshocking of you. I heard much about you and how you worked alone. Yet to see it for myself and to see you fall because of it will be rather delicious, I think. Who said anything about me being alone? You and the Cyclone fools assume too much. As if to prove his point, the pole, which was spinning ever so slowly towards the town, was hit with heavy thunks. The spin began to slow and falter as the blades fell away from it, and then the pole tilted to the side slowly. What have you done? Nothing. I do believe you stopped my shots, so they would either be from this strange man, which we didn't see him shoot, to someone else. Take your pick on what you want it to be. Puck seemed uninterested in his reasonings and stalked her way towards them. The familiar blades were again in between her fingers. "It wasn't me, dear crazy people. I am fast at shooting, but not that fast." "I will kill both of you to make sure I don't have to worry about anything from you two ever again." "And if there are others out there?" "Then my brother will deal with those ones." A blade slid through the air towards Fred, who, in a sudden movement, rolled away from the attack and now grabbed his guns. They were single-shot pistols, and he fired them, then dropped his guns, reaching for others. Vass tried to move to stop any shooting, because he did not want anybody dead, but it was too late. The duo that made up the Cyclone fell to the ground. He looked between the two, hoping for a sign of life to come from them, but they looked to be dead. "Did you kill those two? Why? What do you gain from their death?" "Well, I get to keep my life, and you're still alive, so maybe you should say thank you." "I don't kill, and I wasn't going to kill them, merely stop their plan. I wanted them alive so that they could tell me information. Dead people don't talk." "Should have said something before. Well, now you're in my debt, and I have a perfect way to collect on said debt." "What? No, you're not hanging around me, and go away." Vass got his feet unstuck from the mud and hurried over towards Puck to see if she was in fact dead, or maybe she was still holding on to life. There was a neat hole in her head and one in her heart. He glanced away to try and save himself from the sight and moved towards the brother, Liam. There, on that man, was a similar sight to the one on Puck. Disgusted, he stepped a few steps away and covered his mouth with his hand to stop himself from feeling sick. Then cast his glance over the muddy, dry lake bed that was not, in fact, dry. He noted a vehicle making its way towards them. "Well, Fred, this is where we part ways unless you happen to know things about my brother. And even then, fuck off." "I cannot do that, as I am now tied to you by an oath." "An oath that you made upon yourself, to yourself, about others, carried no weight. Go away." The man did not move, but stood there eyeing him as the jeep rolled to a stop nearby. Ori and Mary both jumped out and did their best to make their way over to them. "You were unfortunately right this time, Vass. Who is that that's standing next to you?" "The killer who took 2 people's lives, the 2 before you, on the ground." Ori went over to Puck's body, knelt down next to it, and looked it over before standing up again. "These 2 dead ones are the ones you call Cyclone?" She looked over to Vass to see him nod yes and sighed. "They were better off alive than dead." "That's what I was saying, Ori, but this bozo, the shooter over there, the one who has single-shot pistols for some reason, went and killed them, and I don't know why." "Who is this?" I asked once again, for greater clarification, please. "Meet Fred, a for-hire killer who may know something, but good luck getting it out of him because he doesn't seem like the type to talk, Mary. He has a habit of deciding things all on his own, so be aware and wary of everything." He spit out his last words and began stomping his way back towards town. The dry lake would be a long walk, but he was going to make it. "Where are you going, Vass?" "Where does it look like I'm going?" "Don't leave town once you get there. And I can't believe I have to clean up another of your messes. As for you, Fred, you're under arrest." "Oh, I don't think so. No, I think I will follow my new puppet." Vass, in a sudden move, turned, faced the man, and fired a single quick shot towards him. It caught Fred in the foot, sending the man tumbling down from a good 100 feet away. "There, I helped you out." "Is he always this prickly, Mary? When it comes to death and destruction, yes. It gets much worse when it gets on a larger scale. There was a near full-on mental breakdown when the Cyclone pair destroyed an entire town, and we came to find him. It was not pretty.
Vass had gotten all the way back to the hotel, trudging his way, with tired legs, his body feeling not very cooperative and rather heavy.
He only made it as far as the entrance to the place before he went over to the bench beside the front door, and in a heap he nearly collapsed upon it, feeling the effects of the poison, no doubt. The streets were busy with people, none of them paying attention to him, as he sat there trying to relax and not feel much pain. "Oh, sir!" Opening his eyes, Vass was greeted by the sight of Billy, the young man who'd let him down into the grave. 2 nights ago now? Vass couldn't remember, as he blinked at the man, trying to figure out why that had actually gone down. "What can I do for you? Why do you look sick?" "Poison, but I'll survive. Is there something else you need?" "Oh, we were wondering what all that noise out on the lake was, and where the doctor went to. Ruby heard he came into town, but then vanished. One minute he was near a building in town, and then Ruby said she saw him go through a door, and she followed him, but he wasn't there. Not that I care or anything about her, but for her I'm asking." "The doc? I don't know. He was here and he was gone, like you said. The lake was a couple of bad people out there. 3 of them, in fact. And they were trying to destroy things, namely the town." There was a beep of a car horn, as the one carrying Mary, Ori, and now the wounded Fred bounced its way onto the main street. It was shaking a bit from the 2 bodies stacked onto the back of it, and from the 2 that Vass had been fighting. "And that would be them. It's not a good sight to see, Billy, so you should go. But before you do, quick question. What is it? Why did you show me the underground of this town, the little grave thing?" "Oh, you brought it down in False Mare and helped sort out the ones who'd been trying to control us. We felt we deserved recognition and, the town's praises. We were happy and free again." "I don't want or need any of that. But what I do need is information. Does the name of the Church of the Red mean anything to you? If it does, shake your head yes." Billy shook his head no. "Then forget everything you heard and go back to your life. And if you're smart, help Ruby forget all about Doc Cold. He probably would have taken her life given the chance." The young man's eyes went wide and he backed away. Then in a hurried step, he ran off. Mary had pulled the vehicle to a stop in front of the hotel and got out, looking over at Vass. "Chasing off the locals now, are we? I doubt they need to see what you have on the vehicle." "True, the less people involved and see that, the better off we'll all be. Ori, if you could take these bodies and put them in the graveyard or something. As for you, Fred, get out of the car." Fred hobbled his way out, wincing in pain as he did. His leg was being treated gingerly as he sucked air in through his teeth. "So what are you planning to do with this one?" "Well, he's accused of murder within the borders of this town. He'll go to the sheriff and stand trial for his crimes." "I see, Vass, and if I hadn't done what I did, he'd be a streak of blood on dirty mud." "I was never in any danger, Mr. Fred Carton. They would have hurt me, sure, but they wouldn't have killed me unless the thing that they created, that whole pole thing, got a hold of me. That might have killed me. It might have caused serious damage or something. I'm not sure yet." The open-top vehicle with Ori now behind the wheel backed up and was off down the road. Fred jumped a bit out of the way as best he could with his injured foot, but any protests of noises he made were ignored by her. "Even if he was in danger, Mr. Fred, you still have killed 2 people and must stand trial for murder. If you can prove it was self-defense, that's fine. But you have to prove it. Before a judge, not just make claims to us. We are not judges. Now get moving down the sidewalk." Fred glowered at them and began making his way to the sidewalk and then up onto it. "Are you going to come along with us, Vass, or are you just going to stay here looking ill?"
Rising up from the bench, Vass stretched himself out to see if he was still feeling the side effects of poison. It made him feel funny, but for the most part he didn't feel too bad. Well, I should at least know what's going on. Lead the way, Mary, lead the way. She eyed him, unsure if he swayed a bit, but held his ground. After a second passed, she began to move as well as the group, tottering along with little speed, as the crowd began to avoid them as they went towards the sheriff's office. They would arrive a few minutes later in a place that looked like the sheriff's office, and Fred was pointing at it. This up here, that's the sheriff's place. It says it on the door, but I don't trust things like that. He asked this, but then went inside without waiting for them to respond or answer. Inside they went to find Fred already sitting across from the sheriff, having a conversation. Listen, I'm telling you, I was shot by a man who's now chasing me, and he has a woman ordering him around. It's very weird. I don't think you should trust them at all. The clatter of the door drew Fred to look over and point at them. Those two caused this mess. I demand their arrest immediately. Evening, Mary. Who is the vagabond that's sitting in front of me now? Says his name is Fred. Murdered 2 people out on the dry lake. Any witnesses? Mary pointed towards Vass, who tiredly scratched his face and kept closing his eyes and then opening them again. He was trying to stand up straight, but was swaying about. He did not feel like he was about to fall over, but he took a few steps forward to fight through the sleepy state. I saw this guy shoot 2 people who were attacking me. Self-defense. See, I'm innocent. Well, that's not how self-defense works, boy. Don't try and weasel your way out. It makes me think you did murder those 2. Are the bodies still out on the lake, or what are they? It'll have to wait until the morning if they are out there. No, I had my co-worker bring them over to the cemetery. Oh, good. I'll go look at them. You, Mr. Fred, are going to a holding cell for now, and you 2 and your other worker are to stay in town until things have been cleared, okay? Fred stood up to try and move towards the door, but the sheriff was quick and grabbed the man. There was a little bit of a jostled fight between them, but with the injured foot, Fred didn't last all that long. He was swept away towards the back where the cells were. The sheriff would return a minute later and look them over. You promised to stick around and make an affidavit statement? Yes, we will be at the hotel. There's no problem with us making statements. The officer nodded and waved them away so that they could leave. The trip back to the hotel, though not a long one, felt a bit much for Vass, as he was getting tireder and tireder by the step. He still managed to get to his room, but relied on the efforts of Mary to get him there. Once in, though, he fell asleep quickly, on the floor of his room of all things. The door would pump into his foot and wake him up in the morning as Ori tried to get inside. He rolled to get out of the way, and she got in. Then she promptly started kicking him until he was awake, and then decided to just leave. Though he felt refreshed enough to get change, he was not happy with the way things were, and his head was still a little fuzzy. But he headed down to the lobby to find the sheriff there, along with his 2 associates. Morning, I just need to clear up a few points, if you don't mind. Vass nodded through a yawn, and then told his story with the sheriff listening intently. Mary and Ori also said their bits when the time came, and the sheriff nodded along to all of it. To their surprise, there was another man who joined them just off to the side, and once the story was done, held out a piece of paper for all of them. Forgive me, I forgot to mention that this is Bob, who acts as a witness to all testimonies. He's also the only shorthand writer here and can take all of this down, so if you don't mind. Hi, if you could all sign these, please. The papers were once again pushed towards them, with each taking the sheets given to them, then taking up a pen and signing them along the dotted line on the hotel checkout desk. Thank you, I'll be out of your way now. The smallish man took back the paper and pens, which he checked over before leaving. I hope you don't mind, Mr. Vass, but I need to see your weapon. That's proof that I shot Fred.
Well, yes, that, and to make sure that the bullets that killed those 2 people weren't from your gun. Pushing back his coat, Vass shut off his 2 rather bulky pistols and pulled them out. One by one they were handed over to the sheriff, who found them to be rather heavy items and weighed them in his hands. He looked them over carefully, examining them all that he could, even opening up the revolving chamber to stick a round in. The shell didn't fit at all, and the gun was handed back to Vass for the other gun. The same process was repeated until the man was satisfied with all that he saw. Thank you, that puts you in the clear. With your signed testimony, you don't need to stay here if you don't want to, but just in case you do leave, I need to know where you are headed. Towards the town of Starborn, or around that area, to see if we can't find a person who is responsible for sending those 2 people to destroy this town. Alrighty then, you're free to go or stay as you wish. The sheriff gave him a soft wave of sleep, barely bringing his hand up to his eyebrow. Then he was gone, leaving the 3 standing there with Vass inching his way towards the door. We should get going. To Starborn? Vass nodded to Ori after her comment. Did that Fred or those people tell you anything about the city, Vass? Nope.
They provided no information. And
no intention of going there, Mary. My brother probably won't be in the actual city itself, but around it. He'll be near it because he wants to topple order, but he hates people, so he doesn't like being too close to them, if you get my meaning. He probably figures if he can destroy order, then the rest of the people will fall easily in his mind and just be killed away. Where does that direct us, then? Closest town that I can remember without a map is Bleary, I believe, but there may be a few other ones on the far side of the city. Mary nodded towards Ori as the trio began heading for the door. Outside, they crowded around a map that was laid out on the front of the car. It was spread out so that they could take it in, trying to see where they were and where the towns were in response to everything else. Right here. Bleary is the big small town close by to Starborn, but on the other side is Bleary and Constance. Where would your brother be in those places, Vass? It's hard to say. We might have to visit all of them to track him down. So this place is a bust as far as information, unless you are holding anything back, Vass. Sadly, yes, it seems like this place is of no use to us. Fred seems like he might be involved with my brother, or maybe people who are associated with my brother. But he also went and killed 2 of Rapier's workers, so I have no idea what to think of him anymore. Plus, he's in police custody, and trying to talk to him seems hard even with our powers combined. Meaning you don't know what questions to ask. A bit, yes, Mary, a bit. She shook her head and began folding up the map. As the other 2 began to move about towards finding seats in the car, Ori raced forward, claiming the front passenger side seat with a sweet smile. Vass eyed her, shrugged, and jumped into the back seat. They drove all morning and into the afternoon, letting the sun do its worst as they went. The dusty, sandy road in front of them was not giving them much to look at as it went by. Mile after mile of the stuff came and went with only a minor break at a shack of a place stuck in the middle of nowhere and had a bit of fuel for them. Vass, however, had decided to sleep through that encounter, only opening his eyes briefly when they came to a stop to see a fuel pump in front of him and a figure of a human pumping fuel into the car. It wasn't interesting, so he went back to sleep. A jostle would wake him up, and his eyes opened to see a darkening sky. The air having gone cold, it made him shiver, and he sat up, trying to figure out what was going on. What's up? We're stopping in a town called Product for the night. Former town, from what I know of. Mary turned from the driver's seat, glanced back at him. It isn't around anymore. We need a place to stay for the night, unless you want to find us fuel so that we can keep driving. It is and isn't a town from what I remember. The last time I came through here was mostly sanded over, I think. Or, well, it was started to sand over. It was a couple of years ago. Mary shook her head as she pressed the gas as the shape of the town began appearing ahead of them, not too far off. A few minutes later, the vehicle had pulled to a stop in a parking spot of a little town. The stand that had once claimed the buildings was now gone, leaving a few stone buildings. There were a few wooden ones as well that had been built up around this main road that cut through the town and just kept going onward into the desert. It was in fact the only road around here. Looks like we have luck on our side for once. Fast, no thanks to you. Ori smirked at Mary's comment and then pointed to the hotel sign in front of them. The Hotel of the Sky. Sounds like a rather pretentious place. Do you think it'll live up to that? No, Ori, our luck is not that good. The two ladies clambered out of the car and continued their conversation as they went up to the door of the place. To Vass, he didn't care about the fancy name or the few people that were out and about as he fetched the ladies' suitcases. No, there was something in the back of his mind that kept saying that something was coming, slowly after them. A glance around as he headed for the door did not calm him down. Whatever it was out there was going to be a surprise if it came. He wasn't going to be sleeping tonight, and would have both guns at the ready. While the other two checked in and got rooms for the night, Vass found himself circling the lobby looking about for anything. It was a quaint space, not terribly big, and felt much like a cage of a space. Mary came over to him as he made his way closer towards the front door. Is there a problem? Just a feeling. Are you going to watch over us since you slept the whole way here? Yes, Ori, yes I am. Something is coming, and I should be awake for it. Should we stay up then? No, I don't think so. No. It doesn't feel that dangerous, Mary. More off-putting than danger, but you two get some sleep. I'll be around if anything happens. There was a dubious look between the two, but they turned and went up the set of stairs to their rooms and beds. Vass watched them go with the thought that he should follow them to make sure that they were safe up there, but let it go. He decided to head out the door. He would not go far, deciding to watch what was going on as he settled in to watch this main road. It was all that was here, and so he came to rest at the back of their vehicle, waiting to see what was going to come down the road. Occasionally he would glance this way and then the other way. It was quiet, which to him was nice, but not that nice. Waiting around for things to show up was trying his patience, and the quiet was unnerving. Come on already, I know you're out there. This was to himself, but he said it out loud, as he cast a stare in the direction they'd come from. Sure enough, though, down the road a figure dragging its leg appeared. Vass watched until the figure got closer and came to a stop, not far from him. He got himself standing up straight and squared up, not feeling the need to draw his guns, but kept his arms down just in case. At the ready, just in case they would be needed. You escaped. A good jail is hard to find, and small town ones rarely can keep a good person down. End of part 5 of the drawn-out fight. Thank you for listening.